Neil Ratner Rock Doc with a story. A few days ago, we celebrated what would have been George Harrison's 74th birthday. And I thought today I would tell another little-known story about George. In December 1968, a very strange memo was circulated around Apple Records headquarters in London's exclusive Savile Road. And it read, and I quote, "Hell's Angels will be in London within the next week on the way to straighten out Czechoslovakia. There will be 12 in number, complete with black leather jackets and motorcycles. They will undoubtedly arrive at Apple, and I have heard they may try to make full use of Apple's facilities. They may look as though they're going to do you in, but are very straight and do good things. So don't fear them or uptight them. Try to assist them without neglecting your Apple business and without letting them take control of Savile Row." The memo was signed by none other than George Harrison. Now, earlier that year, George had encountered a few of the Angels when he was in Los Angeles and had casually mentioned that if they ever were to come to London, they should look him up. Well, that was all the Angels needed to hear, and a large group planned the trip. So sure enough, Derek Taylor, the press officer, got a call from Customs informing him that they were going to have 17 Harley Davidson motorcycles and that he was supposed to pay the freight charges. Well, fortunately, most of the Angels couldn't make the trip due to pending criminal charges and being on probation. But Frisco Pete and his swastika-tattooed companion, Billy Tumbleweed, did make it. And sure enough, they show up at Apple headquarters, and they didn't come alone. Although they were the only Angels, they brought an entourage, including an entire homeless family with children who actually moved into and lived in one of the Apple offices for a while. So it all comes to a head during the Apple Christmas party banquet on December 23rd. By the afternoon, the party was in full swing, with John and Yoko in Santa costumes giving out presents to the kids. Now, Frisco Pete had heard that there was to be a 42-pound turkey, reportedly the largest in Great Britain. And although there were plenty of hors d'oeuvres, he was hungry, impatient, and in the middle of the party, he shouted at the top of his lungs, "What the fuck is going on in this place? We want to eat. What's all this shit about having to wait until 7? There's a 42-pound turkey in that kitchen, and I want some of it now." There's George in the background. So, Pete was politely told to calm down, which he did. But when the turkey did come, the two Angels went crazy and ripped the bird apart, pushing kids to the floor to get there. George was not at the party. According to him, "I didn't go because I knew there was going to be trouble." Well, shortly after the incident, Neil Aspinall asked the Angels to leave, but not so fast. George had invited them, and it would have to be George who would tell him to leave. So, George confronted them. But in typical Harrison fashion, he asked them if they were planning to move their stuff out that night. The Angels didn't quite get it. There was a silence. Then one finally spoke up. "Hey man, I just want to ask you one question. Do you dig us or don't you?" Well, Harrison's answer? Yin and yang, heads and tails, yes and no. A very confusing answer. So Aspinall clarified it for them and said, "You know, bugger off." Their response? "Well, if you put it that way, George, of course." There's George in the background. When they was fab, that's when this happened, when they was fab. So that's my story. And I hope you enjoyed it. Neil Ratner Rock Doc. Have a great day. And I'll see you soon. Yeah, when he was fed. Okay, see you later.